Welcome to Bots and Beyond, your weekly dose of all things automation, mixing up end user, vendor and consultant experience to create your go-to podcast for bot-related insights. I am your host, Wayne Butterfield. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Bots and Beyond. Another amazing episode, fantastic guest that we've got lined up. I'm sure to many of you actually will be not a stranger, Mr. Tom Allen from the AI Journal. So it's a pleasure to welcome you, Tom.
Great to be here, Wayne. Thank you for having me on the show.
My pleasure. For those that aren't aware, though, as usual, let's get in that intro of who you are, what you do, and more importantly, why you do it.
Yeah, thank you, Wayne. So I'm Tom Allen, the founder of the AI Journal, which I started up around just over a year ago. And really, it's an open source information hub. And we have a community and platform to help people learn about AI. And it's really exciting. And it's exciting to have a platform where we can help educate people and inform people around areas from AI, cobots, digital transformation, cloud, IoT. So really exciting space to be in, and really excited to be here with you today.
Brilliant. And I think even though we call it the AI Journal, I think, certainly, following the page myself and obviously seeing all of the different technologies that you talk about, this really is more about future tech versus just artificial intelligence, although obviously we know AI is going to play a major role. I guess you're already up to, and bearing in mind you started a year ago, so you're already up to over 25,000 followers. I think the last time I saw this.
Yeah.
So just give us, I think you kind of give us a brief description of what the AI Journal is, but what's the type of thing that people will find there? What are the type of things that you are doing? And why should people, I guess, follow the page?
Yeah, great question. And really, it's really honoring to see what we've done. I'm really grateful to see how we've grown so quickly as a community. And not only just that, with the people we've got off LinkedIn as well. And what the main aim for it was to create a platform where people can learn, because it was a struggle point for me around moving into a job that I had to learn quite a bit about robotics and machine vision. And I couldn't find a platform to learn from this, from the experts and from the pros, from yourself, Wayne, right through to other people that might be heads of AI at departments and heads of AI at Cognizant and Sophos. So it's a real interesting way to allow people to learn for free and to really build it forward. So it started nothing more than open source platform with free content and free articles and blogs, I guess. And we've managed to scale that up, and it's really exciting. So now we offer all sorts of reports that are free for people to download and look at and understand and get practical insights on how different industries work, from healthcare, from the fintech and insurtech scene, the VR and AR scene, which I think we'll touch on in a minute, and to really educate people, because that's where my pain point came from. And more and more I speak to people, they say, I didn't know this area existed, or I didn't know this part of the world, whether it's automation or intelligent automation, and how to get into those roles, whether it's a sales role or a developer role, and really to help people to help people learn about it, because as you might know as well know, Wayne, that it can be quite an intimidating subject. I mean, we hear quite a lot about people saying, is AI going to take our job, or all these kind of conversations that come from it, which I'm fully against and I don't believe in. But I can understand it's one of those things where you might not want to put your hand up and not know, and this creates a safe environment for people to come and learn from, and to understand from the pros that have, as we say, been in the trenches and understand the frameworks and understand the models for success, and to really drive it forward. So a lot more fun things in the pipelines, from the awards and different conferences we're building, and of course new reports and new ways of engaging with people. So that's what it's all about for me. That's what our core values are: user engagement and user experience, to really help people learn and educate people.
Fantastic. And I think, that breadth of content and also, the types of event that people consume. I know I've obviously been on a couple of the LinkedIn Lives and the events that we've had. Obviously, we'll touch upon the awards later, because I guess, again, that's another area that we should touch upon. But yeah, I mean, an amazing growth story, and the best thing for everybody else is this is free shareable content that just helps them become slightly more aware of some of this emerging technology. And I guess You mentioned machine vision and robotics before. What is it about future tech that really got you, interested? So much so that you founded, this platform and your own organization.
Yeah. So it was an interesting thing because I didn't know much about this area, Wayne, and I didn't know. And here I was walking into a head of marketing role within an engineering company that dealt heavily with robotics and machine vision. And I just couldn't find the resources that were detailed enough to me. And I always say to people, I'm not saying they didn't exist at the time, but just through looking at the publications, and then it really sparked my interest. And I mean, two key areas that I'm always so bullish on and so focused on are cybersecurity and quantum computing, because I think they go hand in hand. And obviously that has knock-on effects into areas we've covered before, like fintech and insurtech. But it really was just that constant, how fast the innovation was. And I don't know how I hadn't come across it before. And I was kind of gobsmacked at what was happening and how AI wasn't properly being talked about and what it can do and how it can help you from anything from speeding up processes to making your manufacturing line more efficient, to understanding where people need more attention on the ward or in healthcare or within education, around learning how people might learn better through reading certain data sets. So it was a real way of making me just think, God, how did I not know about this? And I guess that's where I come from that pain point, Wayne, of thinking I need to start the AI journal because I'm sure other people feel the same way. I can't be the only one looking at it this way. And it's really just more I get to learn. And one of the great things you might have seen, Wayne, is that I get to learn from these people as well. So I get to speak to people like yourself, come on this amazing show and speak at awesome conferences. Whether it was 2-3 weeks ago, I was speaking to people from United Nations and from Novartis, and going for lunches with people from HSBC, and I get to learn from them, which is my key thing of just constantly educating so I can help other people learn about whatever sector it is. And that's why I always do put my hand up, Wade, and say, look, I don't know everything about, I'm not a technical person, but I try and understand it from a top level view. I mean, there's certain aspects we cover that I still can't get my head around, and I think it'll maybe be a few more months or maybe a few more years till I can fully understand those concepts, because some parts are really tricky, especially when you get into the developer side and you get into anything from, I don't know, trying to learn certain languages or learning Python or learning anything that's more complicated than saying, okay, let's take cloud. This is how cloud works. This is how you can have better data storage. This is how you can be more agile with it because it's more available. Whatever it is, it was the really core thing. And like you said, and like you've done, Wayne, it just really sparked that interest of thinking, wow, we need to tell people from, maybe I guess you can call it the consumer level, that are using it. And I tell you the funny story is because people say, oh, I don't like AI and I don't like to use AI. And then you ask them, do you own a smartwatch? Do you own an Alexa? And they say yes. I go, well, you probably are. You're using AI and you don't even know you're using it to a sense. So it just really drove that interest for me to think, how can I share other people's knowledge with people so they understand it, so they can see how it's changing their world.
Fantastic, and I feel like there's going to be a bit of a quiz coming on now, actually, because one of the things I'm quite interested in doing is testing this knowledge, Tom. Yeah. So you spoke about then being able to explain the complex probably a little bit better, or that was the aim, right? As an operational guy, or more of an operational guy versus the dev type. You mentioned earlier on actually quantum.
Yeah.
So I'd be really interested in the simple way of explaining what quantum computing is and obviously why it's important. So this is test number 1.
Yeah. Well, I hope I passed the test, and I hope the audience like my answer. So I see quantum computing as a way of doing things just at a rapid scale. So, I mean, they work in bits compared to what would work into 0 to 1s. And how you can do that, I mean, you can leverage a lot of data very, very quickly. And I think it was Richard Feynman that came up with the whole idea of quantum physics and really questioned on how we could actually build quantum computers to take it forward. So I think you can achieve anything from it, from looking at encoding and secret messages, which might be quite helpful. And full disclosure, I don't know how these kind of operations work, but that's going back to my point of seeing it from a top level view of what's possible and seeing a kind of roadmap. So especially with blockchain coming in, which makes everything much more, I wouldn't say secretive, but much more data protected. It could be quite a handy way of using it through there. It can allow you to model really complicated areas that I don't think I mean, AI can give you predictions, but it can really help you do, I guess, similar to what digital twins can do. And you can model chemical reactions. So being able to do something like that, you can obviously come up with all sorts of crazy new ways of understanding. And this gets really, really deep, but understanding how atoms work and how chemicals work and how chain reactions work to ways we might not explored before. Similar to machine learning, letting us understand how you can understand new patterns, like look at AlphaGo with DeepMind, a great YouTube video that's free to watch, I think. So if your audience is interested in that. But quantum computing, I really think, takes it a step forward. And I think IBM said their quantum computer is going to be ready by 2025, I think, was it? And that will just allow them to process so much data. It's such a quick amount. And it comes into knocking into areas such as cybersecurity. We're producing more data than we've ever produced. I mean, the amount of data we push out on a daily basis has got to be going somewhere, and companies want to use that data. And you think if a quantum computer can come in and analyze it even quicker, it can almost, in a way, narrow how much waste we have, if that makes sense. And I think you'll have better ways of understanding. I think I saw a stat that 90% of all data is unstructured. It will have knock-on effects because you can do everything so much quicker that you'll be able to have better data sets, you'll be able to have better understanding, and maybe it will be used in areas like investment. So I saw that the company spent God knows how many billion just improving a line between Chicago and New York so they could send a trade quicker. Quantum computer comes into that as well because it will be showing how you can do it even quicker. So you can make, even whether your goal is to drive more profits or whether your goal is to understand a really complex situation, such as the one we touched on with chemical reactions, working within the healthcare sector and really understanding deep, complex models. I think that's the future of quantum computing. But the big question is, and the big problem is, Wayne, is that it's very expensive, and a lot of people say that they can't see it being commercialized anytime soon. And I don't think that's true, because I think as soon as something comes out, look how quickly the price drives down. So maybe another 10 years, and that's how I look at VR and AR as well, because it's, people say, oh, the barriers to entry are so high. And I think, look, we don't know what tomorrow looks like, let alone 10 years looks like. So I think don't jump to conclusions. And that's why quantum computing, I can just see being the answer to so many aspects. And it's an area, granted, I don't know as much as I'd like to at the moment, but it is an area I'm always keeping an eye on to see how it can help, what it can build, and new ways of doing things, because that's ultimately why we use AI, right? To give us new ideas and to give us new predictions so we can say, oh, that doesn't work, this does work. And I think quantum computing will almost be the driver to innovate even quicker than what we are at the moment. I think it will be a bigger driver than AI, and that might be quite a bullish statement, and maybe some of your audience might call me out on it, thinking I don't think so, but I do in 10 years, and that's how I see quantum computing being the real innovator compared to something like a technology or capability like AI. So it's it's something I'm really excited about, as you might tell.
Fantastic. Okay, so that's number one. You mentioned it there, cybersecurity. Give us your kind of your 2-minute take on what that is then.
So cybersecurity is a really key aspect at the moment, Wayne, because it's an area that's affecting everything. With the increasing amount of data we have, it's really important and vital for companies to consider this and to build it into their infrastructure and to build it into their company to stop things that we've heard of before, such as data breaches and people taking this data and manipulating it and using it in the wrong ways. So cybersecurity, really, in a nutshell, is a kind of firewall and framework that you can develop to protect what data you get hold of. So if you're thinking of an example here, if you're a smart devices manufacturer and you're using all this data like Amazon or Sophos or Alexa's, you're going to be collecting a lot of data, or the Apple Watch. And it's important because if you start selling that data, or you start using it, or someone comes into that, you're going to hit a big problem, especially with trust, which is a massive thing with new technologies. How can we trust you to use it ethically, and how can we trust you? It goes back to the point that we were talking about. And it's really looking at how can people plan ahead for the future to protect themselves against these issues that we might not even know at the moment. So it's such an important factor. And I mean, we're looking at it all the time, from the big companies right through to the small companies, to understand why cybersecurity really is fundamental, especially when you look at areas. And the report we did on fintech and insurtech, massive area, finance and insurance. Most people are always going to have to deal with that kind of sector, whether it's insurance on your car, insurance on your house, finance, getting a bank, getting a loan, whatever it is, getting a mortgage. And you can imagine you can probably imagine the kind of pain people will have if that data was taken and misrepresented. So it's such an important aspect. And to anyone listening, always make sure you've got the whether you're a small website or a massive business and a massive hosting service like AWS, to make sure you've got those frameworks in place and you've got the right people to protect your data, is what I'd say.
Brilliant. Okay, so 2 out of 2. Last one.
Yeah.
AR and VR. So obviously talked about for quite a while. But for me, I can understand what the key limitation is at the moment. But, I'm dead interested in these kind of eyeball contact lenses that just give us this, I guess, almost a virtual reality over the top of our existing reality, either instead of or as well as. So I get it. But AR, VR in the world of business, I know you've had a couple of events about it recently.
Yeah.
Give us your take on that.
I think it's a really big area, and the key thing I like about it is education, right? So education is huge, and that's why our platform exists, and it really can help you learn for immersive experience. And I reckon, I mean, I wasn't good at school, Wayne. I didn't get great grades, and I didn't pass exams, and I didn't do very well at written oral exams. It just wasn't my thing. But as soon as you put me in a room where I can understand what's going on and I can see it in action, I learn a lot quicker. And I believe a lot of I don't know the stat to how many people learn against the different ways of thinking, but I know immersive thinking. That's why you do training days and why you do workshops, right? And why companies pay big amounts of money to send their teams on training weeks or whatever it is, or sending them to webinars and immersive experiences to understand. And you can see it from engineering, education, healthcare. You can all these different sectors, retail. You can step into something like property, for example. You can step into a room and you can put your headset on, or you can use a AR filter of some sort that has all the floor prints downloaded, and you can pop it up there, and you could be speaking with an investor over in Singapore while looking at a house in London, or a commercial building in London, and you could basically walk through them, what it's going to look like and how it's going to change. And not just from that side, from educating school children. I mean, that's going to be such a huge aspect, so they can learn really and see whether it's the sea creatures they want to look at. I mean, I was speaking to Emma, and she was saying how she puts out on the floor, and you can get your kids involved with what's happening in your own sitting room. And it's something that Kathy Hackle and Jeremy Dalton, who's head of XR at PwC, are really big behind, on saying, look, this doesn't need to be expensive to scale and to bring into your business or into your homes or into your schools. And it really, that's why I'm so obsessed with it, because I think it is the way of learning. And yeah, then you've got the really cool things like glasses, and I don't know what the roadmap looks like for them, and I think they are going to be adopted, but I just don't see it as being, I think you look at the iPhone example, it came out and everyone was like, oh my God, it's so cool, I want one. And then it took quite a while for them to become a big seller, because it took a bit of adoption. Everyone wanted one and they hit it on the nail on the head, but other products don't get it just as that, but become just as big. So it's really understanding how these glasses, I don't think people are ready just yet to be sat at a cafe and someone whips out their Google glasses or Apple glasses, and they can start checking their emails and checking their things and checking where they need to be next, or maps, or important highlights. And that's where it comes back to cybersecurity, because all those kind of things through IoT, the cybersecurity space is huge, because you've got all these data points and you're building more and more data points. And if you bring in things like smart glasses, which to me, essentially, yes, they are augmented reality and virtual reality, but they're IoT devices, and they're smart devices, and they can sync with your phone, and they can do all sorts of things, but it's which opens it to a lot of A, ethical challenges, and B, should you be wearing them like while you're driving, and should you have them at a certain point, or how can you use them, or what's built into it. It's a huge area, but the main reason, and not to drag on, but the main reason I love it is the education factor, to help people learn quicker and become more immersive. So when you put them in a real situation, they'll know it off the top of their head, and they'll know what they need to do. They'll know what actions they need to take, and they'll be much more prepared.
Wow. Okay. And I think the one thing that everyone needs to take away will take away, is how passionate you are about all of these technologies. I'm going to flip it though. Like, what's the future technology, and just like there, like, what are you not excited about? Is there anything that's kind of on the horizon that you just like, that one's not for me?
Well, I think there's ideas behind the technology, Wayne. So for me, I think there's a lot of it's quite controversial. So your audience might not agree with me on this, but something like ethics, I see ethics talked about a lot, and it's growing, and people are hiring for the roles, and I think that's great. But for me, I just think when you're using technology and when you're being a human being, you should aim to do the right thing, right? So I think not that it shouldn't get as much attention to it as possible, but I do think it's going to stem off ideas and really. And I know I disagree with people on this point, but it's not for the wrong reason. I'm not saying you shouldn't do the right thing. You should always do the right thing when you're building technology, when you're leveraging what you want to do in a business, and you shouldn't want to use technology to get rid of staff, and you shouldn't want to use technology to do evil things or manipulate, which there are people out there that want to hijack your data and manipulate it. Goes back to our point around cybersecurity, having those people and having hackers. I saw hackers were in banks hacking their own systems to show that they had robust cybersecurity processes. And the area around ethics, I think if we give it too much focus, like AGI, I do not care about AGI at the moment. I don't know if it's just because I don't see it as a point, but anything that can hinder innovation, to me, I don't like. So I don't like the regulations that keep coming in, because they don't know what's going to be built from it. And that gets to a real controversial point where, of course, I believe people should have their data protected, and of course that's why I'm big on cybersecurity, because I believe these companies should be there to help them. But at the same time, I think if these areas just keep getting so much focus rather than focusing on the actual opportunities, and it really doesn't get me excited. And I just think, this is another area where we shouldn't be creating technology to do the wrong things in the first place. And I know that's a bit of a catch-22 situation, because you don't know what you're building till it's built, and you don't know what it's capable of till it's built. But I do think those kind of areas, so not necessarily technology. I mean, technology itself, I think cloud at the moment is an area that's not really innovating. I mean, you're seeing like hypercloud and the edge computing, which I guess has a lot to do with cloud, but to me they don't really excite me as much at the moment. And it really is the kind of technology behind quantum computing and cybersecurity to make sure we're protected is a great area. So I love to always say it, because I know I get some feedback that say, "Oh, Tom, how can you not care about ethics?" And it's not that I don't care. I just think, how are we so focused on doing the wrong thing that we need so much focus on ethics? Like, we should be focused on doing the right thing, which I guess is a constant revolving question. And I think if we're this concerned about it at the moment, if something like AGI does come into effect, and I don't know when it will, some people say it's 100 years, which I always disagree with, because I go back to the classic thing, I don't know what's going to happen 10 minutes from now, let alone 10 years from now. But I think if we give it so much focus, and if we keep and you'll see it, Wayne, with what you're doing with automation and what you're being able to do with companies within their processes, if you're getting so panicked about it now, and it comes to the conversation of, AI is going to take my job, how bad do you think it's going to be in 10 years? Because we're only investing more and more money into AI startups. So I think it's having a level head as to what technologies will come about, and what technologies. And I don't know what technologies will disappear. So I'm really trying to find out what technology is not going to be big. I guess like 4K. I think 4K will be something that doesn't come around, but that's more of a capability within a TV. And it's just, what else will be a boring thing? What won't be in? And I reckon eventually smartphones and watches will become obsolete as well, because everyone will wear glasses and they'll adopt it. And whether that's 10, 15, 20 years, I don't know. But it's I don't know if there's any technology fully against at the moment, because I think all technology has a great capability. I mean, look at RPA. To me, I find it very basic, and I find it very boring, and maybe that insults you or Kieran or other people I'm very close with. But I just think what it does is very standard to what I see, and it's not a hard to understand kind of process. It's more of a roadmap of what do you want your business to do, what teams you need to get to train them on how to use the software that you need, and to build it out. But I don't know if there's I wouldn't say there's an actual technology I'm bored of or not interested in, or if I've overlooked. So I don't know. Maybe you've got one. I don't know.
Again, you kind of mentioned it there. RPA is it's a really basic technology. A lot of the best technologies generally are, and it's the ones that really excite you. But usually the most complex and the most difficult to adopt and build, and it's always that potential of what they could do versus when you start getting more mature technologies, it's the reality of what they can, what they do.
Yeah.
Right. We are just about finished, but there's one more point I want to raise. We kind of briefly touched upon it earlier on. It was the AI Awards. So obviously part of the AI Journal, we have an annual awards. I'd love to say ceremony, and I would love to say that we're going to dust our tuxes off.
Yeah.
But I guess we will definitely have to put a pause on that at least for now. But tell the audience, I guess, two things: A, what are the awards, and why are they here? And secondly, I guess more importantly, how do they get involved?
Yeah, awesome. And it's really good to have you as one of the judges on the panel, Wayne. And so it's a global awards program put together to recognize excellence on a global scale, and we've got people from all sorts of backgrounds, from Google and IBM and Microsoft, to really look at what people are doing, what companies are doing, what teams are doing, which is a real core focus for us, looking at the people. Something I know you're very big on as well, Wayne, and Emma and Kieran are, and to look at how they can get their work recognized and get it seen by a global scale. And because we want to make sure it's accessible in line with our vision that we touched on earlier, Wayne, for the AI Journal, we wanted to make sure it was free and accessible, and how to build it in to give them the platform to show the awesome work they've been doing. So companies can get involved by going on the website and just submitting an entry to the category they want. It's completely free to do. There's no hidden costs. There's no charge if you become a finalist, and there's no charge behind it whatsoever, again, to make it accessible. And we'll be looking at them all through September, through August and September. And the awards will be towards the end of November. And that'll be a really good way. It'll be all virtual this year because of the pandemic, with the struggle to get everything on a physical stand and physical stage, which we do plan to change along with our conferences as well. But it would be just a real good way to get people involved and celebrate their team and celebrate what the amazing work they're doing. So my message would be: get involved, get your team seen on a global scale. And I literally mean global, from Australia to America and Canada, right through to Europe, right through to the Middle East. So yeah, please come onto the website and reach out to me if you need any help or you're struggling to see how you can enter. But it's a real simple process. A4 one side of A4. Any kind of submitting documents within reason, one video or a few infographics, submit it, and then it will get sent off to amazing judges such as Wayne to review and to get involved and get shortlisted and give you global excellence. So yeah, real fun and really exciting to do.
Excellent. And just for anyone who is thinking of entering, of course, I am open to bribes. So I've got, sorry, did I just say that? Thank you. Really do appreciate your time, Tom. I guess to, let's just wrap this one up now. Love the enthusiasm. Clearly, there's just so much going on in this world of technology. And it's really admirable that the AI Journal is a free to use platform for anybody and everybody who is interested in future technology, not just AI. So I recommend that you give the guys a follow, and then you'll get to see all the amazing content on a daily basis that I consume myself as well. So thank you, Tom. Really do appreciate your time. Thank you, the audience, for listening in, and we both look forward to speaking with you soon.
Awesome. Really appreciate it, Wayne. Thank you for having me on.
Cheers, Tom. Bye, everybody.